Yesterday, you didn't have that bruise. The words came softly, yet struck with the sharpness of a blade. Tiana Brooks froze, the espresso cup trembling slightly in her hand. Her eyes didn't dare meet his, but she knew exactly who had spoken. Luca Donatelli. Only minutes earlier, she had been shoved hard against the back entrance door, her shoulder slamming into the cold metal with a thud that echoed down the service hallway. Blood trickled from a cut near her collarbone, hidden now beneath her black uniform shirt. It had happened so fast she barely registered it, but the pain was still fresh, radiating down her side in dull pulses. "You think this place runs on your excuses?" Patricia had hissed at her. "You show up 10 minutes late and I'm supposed to kiss your feet because you've got problems?" I'm sorry," Tiana had stammered, voice shaking. "I got held up, my door was jammed and—" "Save it," Patricia snapped, eyes cold. "You're lucky Luca Donatelli walks in every morning asking for your coffee, or I'd have replaced your delicate little self months ago." Before Tiana could respond, the manager had grabbed her arm and shoved her toward the kitchen. "Now get out there. If I see you texting that loser boyfriend of yours on the clock again, you're done. And wipe your face, your makeup looks like it's running." It's naughty. That was how her day started. Blood, shame, and the clatter of silver trays. And now, here he was, the only customer who ever noticed more than her apron or her speed. Luca Donatelli. He stood there, dressed in a steel gray suit tailored so sharply it looked carved into him. Morning sunlight glinted off his cufflinks, his voice measured, deep, with just a breath of an Italian accent still hung in the air. Unanswered, Tiana clutched the espresso cup tightly, the pain in her shoulder sharpening with every movement. Her smile, trained, professional, false, snapped into place like armor. "I must have bumped into something last night," she said softly, not meeting his eyes. "Didn't even notice." Luca didn't blink. His dark gaze remained steady, not intrusive but unrelenting, like he saw past the facade and straight into the bruises beneath. She turned away quickly, focused on the espresso machine's familiar hiss and rumble. The scent of roasted beans filled the space, but it couldn't drown the bitter taste of humiliation still burning in her throat. "Double espresso. No sugar," she said, placing the small cup on the counter. "Just how you like it, Mr. Donatelli." He didn't take the cup. "You're wearing long sleeves again," he said. His voice remained even, despite the weather. "Ay Dios," she laughed. "A little too high. A little too bright. I run cold, I guess. Do you?" His voice dropped, soft, but pressing. "Or are you hiding something someone else did to you?" The silence around them grew heavier. In the background, baristas shouted orders and customers typed away on phones. But in that moment, none of it reached her. Tiana didn't answer. She grabbed a towel and wiped the already clean counter with mechanical urgency. "I'm fine," she whispered. He didn't speak, but the silence he offered was not the indifferent kind. It was full of seeing, full of quiet knowing. Usually, this was the part where he'd walk away. Luca Donatelli came in every morning at 6:30, ordered the same coffee, sat in the same window seat for 15 minutes, and left a $100 bill in the tip jar without fail. He never lingered, never looked at her twice. Until now. Today, he stood still. "I'll be sitting over there," he said calmly, nodding toward the far table. "If you want to talk, about anything." She nodded without looking up. He left the espresso untouched and walked away. His two security men, the usual pair in sleek black suits, took up their silent posts near the exit. Tiana could feel the throb in her collarbone, the sharp sting where the door had split her skin. She blinked, willing herself not to cry. "Large oat milk latte with caramel drizzle," someone called. She moved on autopilot, the routine saving her. Foam. Drizzle. Smile. Pass. Repeat. And yet, Luca's voice lingered. "Yesterday, you didn't have that bruise." Not the words themselves, but the noticing that was what rattled her. No one noticed. Not Patricia, who only saw her shift times. Not the customers, who only saw a cheerful black girl in a tidy apron. Not even Reggie, who hit her, then apologized with flowers from a gas station. But he noticed. When the line finally thinned and she found a moment alone near the espresso grinder, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Redog. Don't ignore me. You know I hate that. She didn't even open the message. The buzzing continued. A second. A third. She clenched her jaw, slipped the phone back into her pocket. The fear crept in. Quiet but suffocating. At 7:15, Luca rose from his table. He walked slowly, deliberately, and as he passed the counter, he placed something down beside the untouched cup. Tiana waited a full 5 minutes before she picked it up, a small white card. Luca Donatelli, private line, 917, XXX, XXXX. You don't have to stay. No instructions, no pity, just choice. She folded the card with shaking fingers and tucked it into her apron. The weight of it was unbearable and freeing. The pain in her shoulder pulsed with every breath. Her cheek still burned with the ghost of Patricia's shove. But now, there was something else. Not hope, not yet, but maybe the first flicker of it. And that was more than she'd had in a long time. If this story touched you, give it a like and drop your location in the comments. Someone nearby might be watching with you too. The walk home felt longer than usual, each step echoing with the weight of what had just happened. Tiana kept her head down as she moved along the sidewalk, her black hoodie zipped up to her chin despite the muggy air. The late morning sun pressed against her back, but she welcomed the heat anything to distract her from the dull ache in her shoulder and the throb where Patricia's shove had opened her skin. She had wrapped a paper towel around the wound during her break, pressing it against her collarbone while pretending she was wiping down the counter. No one asked. No one looked closely, but he did. Luca Donatelli's card felt heavy in her pocket, heavier than it should have, not just because of what it offered, but because of what it implied, that someone saw her, really saw her, and worse, that someone cared. The moment she reached the rusting metal door of her apartment building, she hesitated. Her hand hovered above the handle, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her chest. Inside, she knew what waited. Reggie's texts had continued all morning, first demanding, then apologetic, then angry again. She hadn't replied. Not once. That was already enough to set him off. She pushed the door open and stepped into the dark stairwell. The smell of old carpet and fried food clung to the air. As she climbed to the third floor, each creaking step sounded like a countdown. Her apartment door was ajar. Her pulse spiked. She stepped in slowly. Reggie sat on the couch, a half-empty beer bottle in one hand, his phone in the other. He didn't look up at first, but she could feel the tension in his shoulders before he spoke. You ignoring me now? He asked without emotion. No, she said quickly. I was working. I told you. He stood, tall and broad-shouldered, the kind of handsome that fooled people into thinking he couldn't possibly be cruel. His blonde hair was messy, his blue eyes glassy. Funny, he said. Because Patricia said your shift ended at 10. Tiana's stomach twisted. She should have known he'd call. I stayed late. We had a rush. She lied. You sure? Yes. He stepped closer. Then what's this? He held up his phone, displaying a photo someone had taken of her through the cafe window. She was talking to Luca. Tiana's blood ran cold. You smiling at some rich white guy while I'm sitting here worrying? He's a customer. That's all. I was doing my job. Doing your job? His voice rose. Flirting for tips? No. His hand moved fast. Not a punch, just a shove, enough to send her stumbling backward into the doorframe. Her wounded shoulder hit first. She cried out before she could stop herself. He paused. You made me do that, he said softly, stepping back. You always push me to that point. She didn't respond. She had learned long ago that there was no right answer. Instead, she walked past him into the bathroom and locked the door. She turned the faucet on and ran cold water over her trembling hands. In the mirror, she saw her reflection. Smeared makeup, haunted eyes, the edge of a bloodstain beginning to soak through her collar. She stared for a long time. Then she pulled the card from her pocket. Luca Donatelli. Private line, 917. XXXXXXX. You don't have to stay. Her fingers hovered over her phone. Was she really considering this? Calling a man she barely knew? But what were her other choices? Her sister lived 2 states away and had already told her once, "If you stay with that man, don't call me again." Her coworkers? No one at the cafe cared, not really, except him. She sat on the edge of the tub, staring at the numbers, dialing them once, then hanging up. She closed her eyes, breathing through the fear. She could still hear Reggie moving around in the kitchen, the sound of a bottle opening, the scrape of a chair. Her phone buzzed. A new message. "Redig, we good, babe? Come out. I'll cook us breakfast." The apology. The reset. The cycle. She deleted the message without reading the rest. Then she typed a new one. "Tiana, I just need a place to talk. Not stay. Just talk. Is that okay?" She stared at it, hesitating for a second, then hit send. The reply came 5 minutes later. "Unknown number. Yes, I'll send a driver. You choose the time." She didn't expect that. No pressure, no questions, just space. Tiana exhaled slowly and leaned back against the wall. For the first time in a long while, she felt something crack open inside her. Not hope, not yet, but maybe the fragile possibility that she didn't have to go through this alone. And maybe, just maybe, there was a door out. Tiana waited until the sun dipped below the skyline before she made the call. She sat in the laundry room of her apartment complex, her unofficial safe spot surrounded by the hum of old machines and the faint scent of detergent. She'd brought down an empty laundry basket as cover, in case Reggie came looking. Her phone screen lit up with the name she hadn't saved but had memorized. She pressed it, held it to her ear, and counted her heartbeats. "Miss Brooks?" The voice was calm, assured. No surprise, no urgency. "Yes, it's me." There was a pause. "Do you need me to send someone?" Tiana swallowed. I don't know. Maybe. Just to talk. Like I said, I understand," Luca replied. "Where would you feel safe?" Safe. The word tasted foreign. "Not here. Not my building," she said quickly. "There's a corner near the 2nd Avenue Community Library. Quiet. I can be there in 30. "Consider it done," he said. The call ended. No pleasantries, no expectations. Just a man who didn't press when she was already frayed at the edges. 30 minutes later, she stood under a dim streetlight near the library's mural wall. A delivery truck idled in the distance. The paint peeled on the bricks behind her. Wind rustled wrappers along the sidewalk. Then a black SUV turned the corner and rolled to a silent stop. The passenger side window lowered. "Tiana?" Luca's voice wasn't raised, but it carried. She nodded and stepped forward. The door opened, and she slid in. The interior was warm, clean. Quiet jazz played softly from hidden speakers. The driver didn't speak. "You're not obligated to say anything," Luca said as the vehicle pulled away from the curb. "But if you feel like talking, I'll listen." Tiana stared out the window, watching buildings pass in a blur. "You probably think I'm crazy for getting in a car with a stranger. Strangers don't remember bruises that weren't there yesterday," he replied. That silenced her. They drove in silence for a few minutes before pulling into an underground garage beneath a sleek glass building. The elevator ride was quick. When the doors opened, they stepped into what looked like a luxury office space but without the coldness. It felt lived in. A private sanctuary. The lights were soft. The walls lined with books, dark wood, and framed black and white photographs of cities and people long gone. "This is your office?" "One of them." Luca walked over to a side table and poured 2 glasses of water. "But more importantly, no one here will interrupt us." She took the glass, fingers trembling. He sat across from her in a leather chair, not too close, not too far. His presence was commanding, but not overpowering. It was clear. He was giving her the room to lead. "I didn't call you to cry on your shoulder," she said, voice brittle. "I didn't expect you to," he answered. Tiana stared at the glass in her hands. Her nails were chewed short. A bruise peeked out from under her sleeve as she adjusted her grip. She noticed Luca's eyes flick toward it, but he didn't comment. "Reggie wasn't always like this," she said finally. "He used to write songs, said he wanted to be the next Kendrick Lamar. He'd stay up late scribbling lyrics in notebooks, reading them out loud to me in the kitchen like I was his audience. Did he hurt you then?" "No. Not at first." She shook her head. He had charm. Said all the right things. Never raised his voice. Not until I got promoted at my old job. Just a shift lead. Nothing big. That's when he started drinking more. Asking questions. Accusing. The first time he hit me, he cried for an hour after. I told myself it was the last time. 10C he's S. But it wasn't. Luca said softly. No. She laughed bitterly. You know what's worse than the hitting? The quiet. The waiting. Waking up wondering if today's the day something sets him off. A late train. The wrong look. A joke he didn't like. Did you tell anyone? My sister, she whispered. Once. She told me if I stayed, I couldn't come to her again. She has 2 kids. I get it. Luca leaned forward slightly. You don't have to stay, Tiana. You said that to me, remember? Just to talk. Well, you talked. But I'm telling you something now. And I need you to hear it. She looked at him. You don't owe anyone your suffering. Not your sister. Not Reggie. Not your manager. And you sure as hell don't owe it to your younger self. The one who thought she could fix him. Tears stung her eyes. She blinked them back. I don't have anywhere to go, she said. I don't have money. I got rent in 3 days, and Patricia's already looking for reasons to fire me, Reggie said. Reggie doesn't get to say anything anymore. Luca interrupted, his tone firmer now. If you want out, I can help you. Not forever. Not in a way that traps you. Just to get your feet on the ground. Then the rest is yours. Tiana stared at him, stunned. Why would you do that? He hesitated. When I was 13, my mother had a boyfriend who hit her. I didn't know what to do. I told my uncle. The next week, the man was gone. Not arrested, not missing. Just gone. And my mother got to start over. Someone helped her. I never forgot that. She swallowed hard. I can't promise I'll be brave. Luca's eyes met hers. You already are. You got in the car. That's brave enough for tonight. She let the tears fall then, silent and slow. No sobbing, no drama. Just release. Later, as the SUV dropped her off 2 blocks from her building, Luca handed her a second card. This one's different, he said. It's the name of someone who can help. No strings. You decide if you use it. But if you ever want out, don't wait for someone to come knocking. Knock for yourself. She nodded, fingers closing around the card. Inside, the lights were off. Reggie was asleep, snoring loudly on the couch. The TV flickered, muted images. Tiana slipped into the bathroom, locked the door, and looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't look strong. She didn't feel strong, but there was something new in her eyes, something just beginning. A door. Not open yet, but no longer locked. The apartment was eerily quiet the next morning. Tiana stood barefoot in the kitchen, watching the coffee maker sputter and hiss like it resented being used so early. Reggie was still asleep, sprawled out on the couch with an open beer can tipped dangerously on the floor. The television glowed faintly, playing an infomercial no one was watching. She clutched Luca's second card in her hand. The paper slightly creased from being held too tightly through the night. Her thumb grazed the name printed in simple serif font. May Whitaker, Women's Resource Outreach. No judgment, just help. Tiana hadn't slept. After returning from Luca's office, she'd spent the night sitting cross-legged on the bathroom floor, knees tucked to her chest, replaying every word he said. She didn't know if she trusted him yet. But she believed him, and that was something. The coffee dripped slower than usual. Or maybe time just felt thick this morning, like it didn't want to move unless she did. She poured a cup, careful not to wake Reggie. As she passed the living room, she glanced at him. He looked peaceful, like a lie. Last night, he'd woken only once to stumble to the bathroom and hadn't said a word to her. But she saw it in his eyes. The suspicion, the storm building. She stepped into the bedroom and closed the door behind her. It barely muffled the sound of a car alarm 2 blocks away. On the floor by the bed was her old duffel bag. She hadn't used it since her last visit to Atlanta before everything with Reggie had begun to unravel. Tiana knelt slowly and unzipped the bag. It let out a stale puff of forgotten perfume and airport dust. She started with socks, then underwear, jeans, the red hoodie she always wore when she felt most herself. She added her birth certificate and social security card, both buried beneath makeup kits in a drawer. A half-empty bottle of painkillers. A worn paperback copy of The Bluest Eye she'd carried since high school. Each item was a whisper of who she used to be. Before the lies, before the bruises, before she stopped believing she could leave. The door creaked behind her. She froze. Reggie's voice was groggy, slurred with sleep. "You going somewhere?" She turned slowly, heart pounding. "I was just organizing," she said quickly. "Haven't cleaned this bag in months." He rubbed his eyes, scratching his chest as he leaned against the doorframe. "That right?" Tiana gave a weak smile. "You want coffee? I made some." He watched her carefully. And for a moment, she thought he might explode. But instead, he nodded. "Yeah." She passed him in the hallway, her fingers clenched into fists, willing her body to stay calm. She poured his coffee just the way he liked it, black, 3 sugars, no eye contact. He took the mug without thanks. They sat in silence for a few minutes. He on the couch, her on the edge of a dining chair, perched like a bird about to take flight. "You didn't come to bed," he muttered finally. "I didn't feel good." "You seeing someone?" The question came out of nowhere, sharp, accusatory. "No," she said quickly. He stared at her. "Don't lie to me, T. I'm not. It's... You got real quiet lately. Always checking your phone. Taking long shifts. Now you packing bags?" Her breath caught in her chest. "It's nothing like that. I swear." He stood, walked toward her slowly. "You think I'm stupid?" he asked, voice rising. "No." He grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not like before, but enough to remind her of everything he was capable of. She didn't flinch. "Not this time. I'm not seeing anyone," she said again, eyes steady. "But I'm tired. I'm tired of this." "Oh." He released her wrist. "Then leave," he said bitterly. "Go run to whoever's been smiling at you behind that counter. Let him take care of you. See how long that lasts." She stood. "I didn't say I was going anywhere today. I said I'm tired." He didn't answer. Just walked into the bathroom and slammed the door. She moved fast, threw the rest of her clothes into the duffel, slipped her shoes on, grabbed both cards, Luca's and May Whitaker's, and stuffed them into her hoodie pocket. At the front door, she paused. There was no goodbye. No dramatic moment. Just the quiet realization that this time, she wasn't going to wait for permission. The hallway smelled like mildew and old curry. Her neighbor's dog barked behind a thin door. The elevator groaned as it descended. She didn't care. Outside, the wind felt cooler than she expected. She tightened her hoodie and started walking. Past the bodega with the broken fridge. Past the mural she'd helped paint when she first moved in, back when life still held shape. Past the stoop where she and Reggie once laughed at midnight, eating ice cream from paper cups. She walked until she found herself standing in front of a modest brick building with a painted sign. Women's Resource Outreach, ring for entry. She hesitated, then pressed the buzzer. A soft voice answered through the speaker. "Can I help you?" Tiana's voice trembled as she spoke. "I'm here to see May Whitaker." There was a pause. Then, "Come in, sweetheart." The door buzzed. She stepped inside. Warmth, soft yellow lights, the faint scent of lavender, a worn rug with sun-faded patterns, and a woman in her 60s, with silver curls, thick glasses, and the kind of face that had seen pain and chose kindness anyway. "You must be Tiana," May said. Tiana nodded, her eyes stinging. "Yeah, I guess I am. I was place of." May stepped forward and did something no one had done for a very long time. She hugged her. No questions, no sermons, just arms around her, saying, "You made it." The first thing Tiana noticed was the quiet. Not the tense, suffocating quiet of her apartment, where silence always hinted at danger, but a gentler kind, a stillness that held space rather than stole it. May walked her down a short hallway lined with framed photos of women laughing, cooking, gardening. Tiana wondered if they were real residents or staged, But then she noticed the chipped nail polish on one woman's hand, the uneven twist out on another's hair details too human to fake. "This is our intake room," May said, opening a door to a small office painted a warm peach color. "Nothing formal. Just you and me. Sit wherever feels right." Tiana sat on the love seat, hugging her duffel to her chest like a shield. May settled into a rocking chair opposite her and crossed her legs in a way that told Tiana this wasn't going to be an interrogation. "You hungry?" May asked. Tiana stiffened. "No, ma'am." "You lying." Tiana blinked. "I what?" May smiled soft, teasing, but knowing. "You walked here. You carrying a bag half your size. You look like you slept 2 minutes and cried for 10. And nobody cries on an empty stomach. I got leftover cornbread in the kitchen. Let me warm you some." With Raldo, Tiana's throat tightened. Embarrassment? Gratitude? She couldn't tell anymore. Before she could argue, May was already halfway out the door. Alone, Tiana looked around. A jar of cinnamon sticks sat on the window ledge. A crocheted blanket draped over a chair. A lamp lit by a soft pink bulb. Everything looked like it had been placed here with intention. As if someone had asked, "What do women need after life tries to break them?" And then answered, "Warmth, color, soft things." May returned with a small plate in her hand. Steam rose from a buttery square of cornbread. "Here," she said. "Eat slow. There's no rush in this building." Tiana took the plate and held it carefully, as if it might vanish. The cornbread tasted like memories, sweet, dense, comforting in a way she hadn't felt since childhood. Sundays at her grandmother's table. "Now," May said, settling back into her rocking chair. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to, but let's start with the basics. You safe right now?" Tiana nodded. "Yes. I think so. Reggie's at home. And where are you?" "Here, then, sweetheart," May said with a gentle smile. "You safe?" Tiana looked down at her lap. Safe. The word didn't fit on her tongue. But in this room, something inside her loosened a little. May rested her forearms on her knees. "Tell me what you need today. Not tomorrow, not next month. Just today." I don't know." Shame burned beneath Tiana's ribs. "I don't know what I need." "That's all right," May said softly. "Women who've been surviving don't always know how to want things. Let's start simple." "You want water?" Tiana nodded. May handed her a bottle from the desk drawer. Tiana drank half before she realized how thirsty she'd been. "You want quiet?" Another nod. "You want to sit here for a while and breathe?" A shaky inhale. "Yes, good," May said, "because that's step one." For a long minute, the only sounds in the room were the soft creak of May's rocking chair and the hum of the building's heating system. Tiana felt something unclench in her chest. She hadn't realized how tight her breaths had become until the air here didn't feel like it cost her anything. "Did someone send you to me?" May asked finally, though her tone made it clear she already knew the answer. Tiana hesitated. She wasn't sure how much to reveal. "A friend gave me your card," was Laganus. May smiled knowingly. Tall man, sharp suit, eyes heavy like they seen storms? Tiana's eyes flicked up. "You know him?" "Oh, baby," May chuckled. "I've known Luca Donatelli since before he had enough money to buy those expensive shoes he likes. Man's rough around the edges, but he's got a heart that don't fit inside his chest." Tiana felt something warm ripple through her at that. May's voice dropped a little. "You don't owe him anything, you hear? He sends women my way sometimes. Not often. Only when he sees something that don't sit right with him." Tiana swallowed. "He noticed a bruise." "Of course he did," May said. "Men like him notice everything. But the difference is, he cares enough to say something." Tiana set the empty water bottle aside, hands trembling slightly. "I'm not staying, not long. I just needed somewhere to think." "That's plenty," May said. "Thinking's hard to do in a place where you're scared." The truth hit hard. Tiana's eyes burned. She didn't want to cry, hadn't cried properly in years, but her voice cracked anyway. "I don't know how to leave." May leaned forward. "You don't need to know the whole way out. You just need the next step. What is it? Breathing, May said. Then eating. Then resting. Then we figure the rest. Tiana wiped her cheek. She hadn't realized a tear had slipped out. May continued. Let me ask you something. When's the last time someone spoke to you gentle? Not soft 'cause they wanted something. Gentle. 'Cause you deserve it? Tiana couldn't remember. See, May said. Your spirit's starved. We gonna feed it first. Another tear fell. Then another. Not the frantic tears of fear, just the slow release of someone finally exhaling after holding her breath for months. May placed a box of tissues beside her but didn't move closer. She understood the unspoken boundary. Kindness was welcome. Touch was not. Not yet. You're not weak, May said. You're tired. There's a difference. Weak people break. Tired people rebuild. The words rooted themselves in Tiana's chest. Would you like to rest in one of our quiet rooms? May asked. Just for an hour. No paperwork yet. Just a bed and some peace. Tiana nodded slowly. May stood and opened the door. Come on then, I'll show you. If you are can just of W-ated nay. The quiet room was small, painted sky blue, with a single bed covered in a quilt of mismatched patches. A diffuser breathed lavender into the air. A small lamp glowed like sunset behind frosted glass. This yours for as long as you need today, May said. Tiana stepped inside. The air felt lighter, like it didn't carry judgment. She set her bag on the floor. May? She asked softly. Yes, sweetheart. Do you think I can actually leave him? May's answer came without hesitation. I think you already started. Tiana lay down on the bed. The mattress wasn't fancy, but it felt like heaven. The first real comfort she'd felt in ages. As her eyes drifted closed, she realized something startling. For the first time in as long as she could remember, she wasn't listening for footsteps. She wasn't bracing for yelling. She wasn't preparing to defend herself. She was simply breathing. And that felt like the beginning of a life she'd forgotten she deserved. The knock on the door was soft, so soft Tiana almost thought she'd imagined it. She stirred under the patchwork quilt, blinking against the golden light from the small lamp still glowing in the corner. The lavender in the diffuser had faded, replaced by a faint scent of cinnamon from somewhere in the building. Her heart didn't race. Her breath didn't hitch. She had slept. Actually slept dreamless, uninterrupted, and undisturbed. Another soft knock. She sat up slowly. Yes? It's May, came the gentle voice through the door. No rush, honey. Just wanted to let you know it's been about 2 hours. You still got the room if you need it longer. Tiana looked at the clock on the wall. She hadn't meant to sleep that long. Her instinct was to apologize. But she caught herself. She didn't owe anyone an explanation for needing rest. I'll be out in a minute, she called softly. She slipped out of bed, stretched carefully, her shoulders still sore but manageable now, and walked to the small mirror on the dresser. Her face looked different in this light. Softer, not healed, but less haunted. She ran her fingers over the bruise peeking out from her collarbone. It had darkened overnight. She stared at her reflection. What now? She whispered. No voice answered. She opened the door to find May waiting with 2 mugs of tea, and an expression that didn't ask questions, just made space for them. Figured you might want something warm, May said, handing her one of the mugs. Tiana took it with both hands. Thank you for all this. May smiled. You don't owe thanks, but I'll take it anyway. They sat together in the small kitchen down the hall, worn tiles, faded photos, a corkboard covered with colorful notes from women who had passed through. You saved me. I can breathe again. Day 40 still standing. Tiana read them silently, her fingers tightening around the ceramic mug. May watched her for a moment, then asked the question Tiana had been avoiding all day. You got a place to go tonight? Tiana's chest tightened. Not really. You're welcome to stay here. You'd have your own room, key, no judgment. We have a few beds reserved for situations like yours. But what about paperwork? Proof? Police reports? May shook her head. We don't start with that. We start with safety. The rest comes later. Tiana looked down. I don't want to be one of those people that just takes, you know? I'm not helpless. I just You're not helpless, May said firmly. You're rebuilding. That's different. Tiana nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. I need a job. A new one. I can't go back to the cafe. Patricia. She's part of the reason She cut herself off. May didn't press. We work with a few employment partners. Businesses that don't ask too many questions but offer fair hours, real pay, and safe conditions. I'll make some calls tomorrow. Tiana blinked. You'd do that? May sipped her tea. Of course. That's what we're here for. Tiana exhaled slowly. I haven't had anyone help me in a long time without asking for something in return. May leaned back. Then it's time you remembered what unconditional looks like. The room fell into a peaceful silence again. Then May added, casually, You know, Luca stopped by this morning. Dropped off a bag of groceries and a stack of prepaid cell phones. Tiana's head jerked up. He did? May grinned. He does it every so often. Never says much, just walks in like he owns the building, which, technically, he does not, and leaves what he thinks women might need. Fresh produce, cash cards, sometimes even books. One time, he brought 30 pairs of house slippers. Tiana laughed, the sound catching her off guard. I think he believes comfort can fix people, May said with a chuckle. He's not always wrong. Did he ask about me? May shrugged. He asked if you made it safely. I told him yes. Tiana looked down at her tea. He didn't have to care. No, he didn't. That's why it matters. They finished their tea in quiet. Afterward, May showed her to a small room on the second floor. This one with light blue walls, a twin bed, a lamp shaped like a seashell, and a window that looked out onto the street. Not much of a view, but it felt open, free. You'll be safe here tonight, May said. Bathrooms down the hall. Towels are in the closet. If you need anything, you knock on my door, or press the red button by the bed. Tiana nodded. Okay. May started to leave, then turned back. One more thing, there's a journal in the drawer. You don't have to use it, but sometimes it helps to get the noise out of your head and onto paper. After May left, Tiana sat on the edge of the bed and pulled open the drawer. The journal was simple black leather cover, unlined pages. A pen rested inside. She opened to the first page. At the top, someone had written in neat cursive, "The hardest part isn't leaving. It's deciding that you matter enough to walk away. Anonymous." Tiana stared at the quote for a long time. Then, slowly, she began to write. Day 1. I left. Not for good. Not yet. But I left for tonight. And that's something. She paused. Thought. Then added, I'm not sure who I am without him. But I want to find out. I think I deserve to. The pen didn't shake. She closed the journal, tucked it back into the drawer, and stood to pull the curtains open. The street below buzzed with life. Cars, laughter, the honk of a horn, people moving toward places they chose to be. Tiana pressed her forehead to the cool glass. For the first time, she asked herself not what she feared, but what she wanted. It was a quieter question, but it refused to be ignored. Tiana woke before sunrise, her body still adjusting to the strange sensation of sleeping without fear. The small room was quiet, washed in pale blue shadows. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. No yelling, no footsteps, no tense silence from the other side of a thin bedroom wall. Just stillness. A soft knock at the door made her turn. You awake, sweetheart? May's voice floated through. Yes, Tiana said, rubbing her eyes. Come in. Do here, too. May entered carrying a folded towel, a clean t-shirt, and a pair of soft gray sweatpants. Brought you something comfy. Laundry room's on the first floor. Breakfast starts at 7, but coffee's ready now if you need a jump start. Coffee sounds perfect, Tiana said, stretching. Her shoulder still stung, but the ache felt different this morning, less sharp. More like a bruise healing instead of one forming. She washed up in the hallway bathroom, changed into the fresh clothes, and tried not to stare at the mirror too long. The swelling around her cheekbone had gone down a little. Her collarbone bruise was still dark, angry, but her eyes, something in them looked different, something that hadn't been there in weeks. A flicker of steadiness. In the kitchen, 3 women sat around a long wooden table. One braided her hair, one scrolled through her phone, one simply sipped coffee, staring out the window. When Tiana walked in, they looked up, but not with pity. With recognition, May waved her over. "Sit, honey. Coffee's hot." Tiana poured herself a mug strong, dark, without bitterness somehow, and took a slow sip. The woman with the braids smiled. "First night," Tiana nodded. "I'm Kim," she said. "Stayed here 2 months ago. Still come back for group therapy. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, free muffins." The woman by the window raised her mug. "And decent company," she added. Tiana almost smiled. May placed a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of her. "You need to keep your strength up. You've been running on nerves for too long." As Tiana ate, May sat beside her. "When you're ready, we'll go over options for today. I'm not rushing you, but I want you to know what tools you've got." Tiana nodded, swallowing slowly. "I think I want to talk about what happens next. That's a good place to start." May leaned forward. "But first, I have something for you." She pulled out a small white envelope and slid it across the table. Tiana hesitated. "What is it?" "A phone. Prepaid. No contracts. No tracking. Your name isn't tied to it. This is the number we use to check in on you, and the one you can use to reach us." Tiana opened the envelope and pulled out a simple flip phone. The kind people laughed at. But right now, it looked like freedom. "Thank you," she whispered. May shook her head. "Don't thank me. Just use it." As breakfast wound down, Kim stood and grabbed her tote bag. "You going to the intake meeting, Tiana?" "I think so. I'll walk you. The staff are good people. They've heard everything. Nothing scares them." May checked her watch. "You've got a visitor coming later, by the way." Tiana's stomach tightened. "What? Who?" May chuckled. "Relax. It's not him." That eased some of the tension. "It's Luca," May said gently. Tiana froze. "Why?" "To drop off something for you. A letter." May gave her a look. "Not a love letter. Sugar. A recommendation. For a job." Tiana inhaled sharply. "A job?" May nodded. "He said he didn't want to pressure you, but he knows a few people. Said he'd help if you wanted it." The tears threatened again, but she blinked them back. "All right," she said softly. "I'll talk to him." Kim nudged her shoulder. "He, the fancy guy in the suit you were talking to at the cafe?" Tiana's cheeks warmed. "He's someone who helped." Kim grinned. "Girl, let me tell you something." She leaned in conspiratorially. "When a man like that notices a bruise you didn't have yesterday, that ain't normal. That's intentional." Tiana shook her head, but she smiled just a little. They walked down the hall to the intake room together. Inside, a young social worker named Danielle greeted them with a soft smile and a stack of papers. "Don't worry," she said. "Most of this is optional. We're not here to force you into anything. This is just to get you access to resources, medical help, legal aid, counseling, job training, whatever you choose." As Danielle explained each section, Tiana found her hands trembling not from fear, but from the enormity of what she was stepping into, a life she wasn't sure she deserved, but one she was starting to think she could reach. When they finished, Danielle asked, "Do you want to pursue a protective order?" The question dropped like a stone. Tiana looked at her shaking hands. "Not yet," she whispered. "Okay," Danielle said gently. "We'll revisit it when you're ready." Tiana left the room with a folder full of brochures and contact numbers. It felt heavy, but in a useful way, like carrying tools, not burdens. She returned to her room and sat on the bed. She wasn't sure how long she sat there before she heard familiar footsteps in the hallway, boots that clicked with intention, not anger. A soft knock. "Tiana," her breath caught. She opened the door. Luca stood there holding a manila folder and a paper cup of coffee from a boutique shop across town, the kind she could never afford. He looked the same as always, sharp suit, controlled posture, but his eyes softened when he saw her. "I didn't wake you, did I?" he asked. "No," her voice trembled. "I've been up." "Good." He held out the cup. "Thought you might want something familiar." She took it. The warmth seeped through her fingers. "I wrote a letter," he said, lifting the folder. For a friend of mine. He runs a small roasting company. Good environment. Good pay. Flexible hours. No questions asked. Tiana stared at him, stunned. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Silence settled between them, soft, not awkward. Then Luca spoke again, his voice low. You did the hardest thing last night. What's that? You left. Her throat tightened. Just for the night. His expression didn't waver. Sometimes one night is all the proof you need that you can walk away. She clutched the cup tighter. Luca gestured toward the room behind her. Is it all right if we talk inside? Only if you want to. I don't want to intrude. Tiana stepped aside. Yes. Come in. He entered quietly, looking at the small room with respect, not judgment. Tiana, he said finally, turning toward her. Whatever you choose. Next job. Shelter. Legal action. It's yours to decide. No one else. Not him. To that it down. She breathed slowly, deeply. For the first time, the air didn't hurt. Thank you, she whispered. And she meant it. More than he knew. Tiana stared at the folder resting on her lap long after Luca had gone. The job lead was real. She'd read the letter 3 times already, each word carefully chosen. Like Luca had written it with more than just favor in mind. It wasn't flowery, but it radiated belief in her. Like she was already worth the opportunity. Not someone begging for a chance. She ran her fingers over the crisp edge of the page. A coffee roasting company. Owned by a veteran. Flexible hours. Full health coverage. Training provided. No questions asked. Her thumb hovered over the number on the business card tucked inside. She hadn't called yet. Part of her didn't want to rush this moment. It was the first time in a long while where hope didn't feel like a scam. A light knock pulled her attention. Lunch is ready, May called through the door. If you're hungry, represent. Tiana stood, folded the folder carefully, and tucked it into her canvas tote. Coming, she said. The dining room was more full than the morning had been. A few new faces. The chatter was quiet but warm, like the inside of a family gathering where everyone had seen something terrible and now just wanted peace. The table had bowls of chili, cornbread, and sweet tea in mason jars. It smelled like safety. Tiana sat near the end of the table. A woman with salt and pepper curls nodded at her but didn't speak. Another with wide brown eyes and chipped blue nails passed her the bowl of chili. She accepted it with a soft thanks as she spooned food onto her plate. Her thoughts drifted back to the letter, then to Reggie. And the tension returned like a whisper. Would he come looking? He hadn't texted, hadn't called. That scared her more than if he had. After lunch, May pulled her aside. You've been quiet, she said gently. I'm trying to think before I do something, Tiana replied. That's usually wise. May folded her arms. You planning to call that job lead? I want to, Tiana said. I just don't want to blow it. May gave her a warm look. You won't. They don't expect perfection. They expect truth. And I think you've got plenty of that. Tiana nodded slowly. I'll call them this afternoon. May smiled. Good. And remember, there's no shame in starting over. There's power in it. Tiana stepped out into the small courtyard behind the center. The sky had opened up just a bit, sunlight breaking through gray clouds like a promise. A few women were reading on benches or writing in journals. There was even a garden at the back, with rows of herbs and tomatoes still clinging to their vines. She pulled out her phone. The prepaid one, dialed the number. It rang once, twice. Then a friendly male voice answered. Davenport Roasters, this is Rob. Tiana swallowed. Hi, my name is Tiana Brooks. Luca Donatelli gave me your information. A pause, then. Ah, you're that Tiana. Luca wasn't lying when he said you might call today. She blinked. He talked about me? Only good things, Rob chuckled. Said you were sharp, hard-working, honest, and that you've been through some things most people wouldn't survive. Tiana didn't know what to say. I've got a morning shift open starting next Monday, Rob continued. We do early prep roasting, bagging, some counter service, but it's low pressure. You interested in coming in to see the place? She exhaled. Yes, I'd like that. Great. Come by this Friday, 8 a.m. I'll show you around. You don't need to bring anything, just yourself. She scribbled the address down. Thank you. No need, he said. If Luca believes in you, so do I. See you Friday. The call ended. Tiana stared at the screen for a moment. Her heart was racing, but in a good way this time. She walked back into the center, and May was waiting with that look again. How'd it go? I've got an interview, Tiana said, a breathless smile forming on her lips. May let out a proud little, see what happens when you make space for life to catch up with you. But the joy didn't last long. That evening, just after dinner, Tiana returned to her room and checked her personal phone, the one she hadn't powered on since arriving. She didn't know why she did it. Habit, maybe. Or that dangerous thread of curiosity. As soon as the screen lit up, her breath caught. 14 missed calls, 7 voicemails, all from one number. Reggie. She stared at the screen like it was radioactive. Her finger hovered over the voicemail icon, then pulled back. She dropped the phone onto the bed, heart pounding. May knocked a minute later. She didn't say anything, just stepped in, saw the panic on Tiana's face, and quietly sat beside her. He's called, Tiana whispered. Did you listen? No. Good. May placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You don't have to. Tiana shook her head. I know. It feels like opening a door I spent days trying to close. You don't owe him your ears, not even for closure. Tiana turned to her. What if he's outside right now? What if he figures out where I am? May's voice was calm. He won't. He'd have to climb through a dozen layers of concrete, policy, and pissed off women with nothing to lose. You're safer than you've ever been. Tiana laughed through her panic. That's terrifyingly comforting. May smiled, then grew serious. But we will be ready. If he tries anything, we have procedures, restraining orders, police partners, legal aid. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. Tiana nodded, her eyes filling again, but this time with something new. Not fear, gratitude. That night, she left the personal phone powered off. She wrote more in the journal. Read half a chapter of her old paperback. Set an alarm for Friday. She was starting something. And even though the past had called 14 times, she didn't have to answer. The morning of the interview, Tiana woke up before her alarm, her stomach twisted with a mixture of anticipation and nerves, the kind that made her question if she was ready, even though every part of her had fought to get to this moment. She dressed simply, a crisp white blouse May had lent her, paired with dark jeans and clean sneakers. Her hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and she wore no makeup except a light gloss. May had pressed into her palm with a wink. For a little shine, not for anyone's approval. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself, not because she looked different, but because of how she was standing, shoulders a little straighter, eyes that didn't dart like prey. She still felt the fear, but beneath it was something steadier, resolve. At 7:10 a.m., she stepped onto the sidewalk with her canvas tote and prepaid phone. May had offered to ride with her, but Tiana said no. I need to do this alone. Then do it, May said simply. But call me when you're done so I can be proud out loud. The bus ride across town was quiet. Rain drizzled against the windows, soft and persistent. It wasn't cold, just damp enough to make the city glisten. She rode with her hands folded in her lap, staring at her reflection in the glass and wondering if the world could tell that she was on the verge of something. The coffee shop sat on a quiet corner between a hardware store and a thrift boutique. Davenport Roasters, read the wooden sign above the door. Hand-carved and painted with faded navy blue letters, a warm light glowed from inside. Through the window, she could see shelves of beans, a long espresso bar, and several customers already tucked into corners with laptops or conversations. She stood outside for a full minute before reaching for the handle. Good morning, called a voice from behind the bar. A tall man with a weathered face and silver at his temples smiled at her. You must be Tiana. I am, she replied, voice soft but steady. I'm Rob, he said, wiping his hands on a clean towel. Luca told me you're punctual. That checks out. Tiana smiled, grateful that Rob didn't extend his hand or force pleasantries. He just waved her over to the side of the counter. Let me show you around. The tour was brief but thorough. He walked her through the roasting room, a surprisingly peaceful space filled with the rich scent of beans warming in rotating drums, then the back room, where staff bagged, labeled, and stacked orders for delivery. And finally, the break room small, but with a couch, a microwave, and a bulletin board pinned with birthday cards and inside jokes. Rob stopped near a large chalkboard that listed weekly staff shifts. We're not fancy, he said. We don't expect people to know the difference between Tanzanian Peaberry and Sumatra Dark. But we work hard, take care of each other, and we tell the truth. That last part's the most important. Tiana nodded. That's something I can do. Azita. He studied her face, not with suspicion, but with the kind of focus that came from someone who'd seen pain and wanted to leave room for it. You'll have full training, no pressure. We pair new hires with someone for the first 2 weeks, and we don't tolerate disrespect from customers or staff. That clear? Very, she said, her voice firmer than before. Good, Rob said. You're hired. Tiana blinked. Just like that? Luca may be intense, he chuckled, but he doesn't vouch for people lightly. That kind of trust is rare, and your eyes tell me everything else I need to know. You showed up. She didn't know what to say. Her hands trembled slightly, but not from fear this time, just the shock of someone choosing her without strings. I'll start Monday, she said. Whatever shift you need. We'll start slow, Rob said. 8 a.m. to noon. Get your bearings. We'll build from there. Reasoned. They good. She stepped out into the rain, and for once, didn't bother with her hood. The drops on her face felt good cleansing, even like she was being rinsed of the weight she'd been carrying. Tiana made her way down the street and found a small park nearby. She sat on a bench under a sycamore tree and took out her journal. Friday. I got the job. He said you showed up like it was the bravest thing. Maybe it was. She closed the notebook slowly, her hands curling around its spine. A quiet vibration buzzed in her pocket. The prepaid phone. May. Tiana smiled as she answered. I got it. She could practically hear the grin on May's face. Of course you did, baby. I was proud of you before you even walked in. Thank you, Tiana whispered. Now go celebrate. Do something little for yourself. Doesn't have to be fancy, just has to be yours. Tiana hung up and sat still for a moment. What did she want? A coffee shop across the park called her name, small, nondescript, with a chalkboard menu and folk music leaking from the door. She walked in and ordered a muffin. Blueberry. When the barista asked, for here or to go, she surprised herself. For here. She sat by the window with her muffin and let the silence wrap around her. She didn't scroll her phone, didn't look over her shoulder, just sat. An hour later, she returned to the center. May met her at the door. You look different. I feel different. May's voice dropped to a whisper. Now that you've crossed that line, there's no going back. You know that, right? Tiana nodded. I don't want to go back. Good, May said. Because the future's wide open, and baby, you've earned every step of it. That night, Tiana lay in bed and listened not for threats, but for her own breathing. Steady, unshaken. And in the stillness, she made herself a promise. She would build a life so full of truth. There'd be no room left for lies. Sunday morning came with a golden sky and the smell of cinnamon rolls drifting down the hallway from the shelter's kitchen. Tiana opened her eyes slowly, her body still adjusting to the radical softness of rest. Her dreams had been scattered, a flash of the cafe, the burn of Reggie's voice in her ear, but also May's warm smile, the gentle clang of coffee grinders, and a stranger's voice saying, "You're hired." She sat up, blinked into the soft light, and let the calm wash over her. Her body still ached in places, bruises fading slowly, but her mind felt hers. In the mirror above the desk, her reflection looked less like someone surviving and more like someone becoming. She ran a hand over her bun, smoothing it back into place, then reached for her journal. Sunday. 2 days ago I was too afraid to breathe. Now I'm writing about cinnamon rolls and job shifts. I think this is what healing starts like. Not a sunrise, but a flicker, and then another. Downstairs, May was already holding court in the kitchen, humming a hymn under her breath as she flipped bacon in a skillet. The other women moved around her like this was ritual, sacred, and ordinary. Kim was slicing oranges. Another woman, Denise, poured juice into mismatched glasses. May looked up and beamed. There she is. Miss Working Girl. Tiana smiled, ducking her head. You ready for orientation tomorrow? May asked. More than I thought I'd be. You'll do fine, Kim chimed in. You made it through May's chilly night and still have both eyebrows. You're already a survivor. Laughter bubbled up from the table. Tiana sat down, the warmth around her settling like a blanket over her shoulders. This wasn't a permanent home, but it felt like a launching pad. As the women passed plates and stories, some heavy, some funny, Tiana felt the strangest urge. She wanted to say her name, out loud, to claim it, not just answer to it. When Denise mentioned something about an old boyfriend who tried to train her like a dog, Tiana spoke without thinking. That's what Reggie used to say, too. The table quieted, but not in discomfort. Kim leaned forward. He said that to you? Tiana nodded. Called it discipline. Said I needed to learn how to act. Is know it. May's spatula paused mid-flip. Denise let out a soft whistle. We've all heard that song, honey. Just different verses. Tiana looked around the table. Every woman nodded in silent agreement. And then May spoke, calm but firm. Well, let me say it out loud for the record. That ain't discipline, that's abuse. Silence again. But this time, it was thick with something strong validation. Tiana swallowed. Sometimes I wonder if I'm exaggerating. Like, maybe I overreacted. I cast a video. You didn't, May said instantly. You reacted just enough to save your own life. Tiana's eyes filled. But he never broke a bone. Never sent me to the hospital. You waiting for an ambulance to confirm you're in pain? May asked gently. Emotional bleeding don't show on x-rays. The table murmured soft agreement. Someone reached across and touched Tiana's wrist. She didn't flinch. Instead, she whispered, Thank you. May turned back to the stove. Now eat. Courage burns calories. I do'd. Later that afternoon, Tiana found herself walking 2 blocks down to a corner laundromat with a tote of clothes slung over her shoulder. It wasn't urgent laundry, but it felt symbolic, like washing off the last remnants of what she no longer carried. The laundromat was nearly empty. Just a quiet older man folding towels and a teenage girl reading manga in the corner. Tiana loaded her clothes, poured in detergent, and sat near the window while the machine hummed. She pulled out her phone, the safe one, scrolled to May's contact, then paused. Then she opened the gallery. There were no pictures, no saved videos, no clutter. She hesitated, then opened the camera and, for the first time in years, took a photo of herself. No filters, no smile she didn't feel, just her. And then, without warning, her phone vibrated in her tote. She'd kept it turned off since Thursday. But somehow, it had powered on. The screen glowed with a new message. Just one. Reggie, where are you? We need to talk. Her heart flipped, but it didn't plummet. She stared at the words, the familiar manipulation in their economy. We need to talk. Not, are you okay? Not, I'm sorry. Not, I messed up. Just a claim. She held the phone like it was a grenade and then, slowly, powered it off again. In her lap, the safe phone buzzed with a gentle reminder her new contact calendar had logged her Monday shift. Davenport Roasters, 8 a.m. Trainer, Josie, tell her you like oat milk. She smiled. A little. Back at the shelter, May was waiting on the porch like she'd timed it perfectly. She stood with a basket of tomatoes from the garden and a piece of mail in her hand. Look what showed up, May said, handing over a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Just a single line. For your first paycheck, you already earned it. L. Taped to the back was a $20 bill. Tiana stared at it, stunned. May chuckled. Men like Luca say more with silence than speeches. But when they do speak, it sticks. Tiana folded the bill into her wallet carefully, like a talisman. That night, as she lay in bed, the wind rustled against the window. But she wasn't afraid. She thought about her name again. About how Reggie used to spit it out like a warning. A command. But here, May said it like a song. And tomorrow, a stranger named Josie would say it while teaching her to grind beans and steam milk. And eventually, she might say it herself with pride. Tiana Brooks. Someone with a job. Someone with a future. Someone with a name that didn't belong to someone else's violence but to her. Tiana stood in front of the full-length mirror inside Davenport Roaster's tiny employee bathroom. Her breath held as she adjusted the strap of her brown canvas apron. The material still smelled like starch and fresh air. She had a new name tag, nothing fancy. Just white letters on a copper background. Tiana. Barista in training. Simple, direct. But it felt like it weighed more than gold. She smoothed her blouse, tied her curls back again, and studied herself. Not the bruises, they were fading now, but her posture. Her expression. "You've got this," she whispered to the mirror, not quite believing it yet, but trying anyway. Outside, the cafe buzzed with early Monday energy. The espresso machine hissed. A low playlist of vintage soul music played in the background. Rain had just ended, leaving the street outside glistening and the windows fogged at the edges. It was the kind of cozy setting she'd always longed to be a part of, not just serve from the sidelines. Josie, her assigned trainer, stood behind the counter. She was in her mid-40s, white, with short, spiky red hair and silver hoop earrings. She looked like someone who'd once led a punk band and now organized community cleanups on weekends. "Tiana," Josie called over her shoulder. "You ready to burn your first espresso?" Tiana chuckled nervously as she joined her behind the counter. "I'm ready to try. That's all we ask," Josie said, handing her a portafilter. "Don't worry. The machine doesn't bite unless you forget to lock this in properly. Then it just spits at you in rage." They started slow grinding beans, tamping them, learning the rhythm of the machine's hisses and hums. Josie walked her through every step with humor and patience, and when Tiana's first shot came out too watery, Josie just said, "Your next one's already better." Customers flowed in and out. No one batted an eye at Tiana fumbling with lids or double-checking tickets. One older gentleman even said, "Take your time, dear. The world ain't on fire." By noon, she was sweating under her apron, but smiling, actually smiling. "You're doing great," Josie said, handing her a fresh bottle of sanitizer. "And that's not a compliment. It's a statement of fact." "Thanks," Tiana said, breathless and surprised. "I thought I'd freeze." Josie leaned in. "Everyone freezes on day one. What matters is that you kept going. Most folks don't." Tiana blinked. "You sound like you've done this before." "I trained a lot of women who come through places like May's," Josie said. "I know the signs." Tiana stiffened slightly. "You knew?" Josie's voice softened. "Honey, I volunteer there on weekends. I didn't need Luca to tell me where you were coming from. I just needed to see if you wanted to move forward. And you do." Tiana felt her eyes sting but blinked quickly. Josie patted her shoulder. "You're not here for pity. You're here for purpose. And I'm glad you are." I woed. By the end of her shift, Tiana had learned the layout of the syrup station, how to steam milk without burning it, and how to politely tell a customer, "That's not on the menu, but I'll ask." As she untied her apron in the break room, Rob poked his head in. "Solid first day," he said, handing her a cup of water and a folded piece of paper. She opened it. It was her schedule for the week. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to noon. "Keep showing up," Rob said. "That's all I ask." She nodded. "I will." Before leaving, she stopped by the front to watch the rain starting again. The city shimmered under the silver sky, and for once, it didn't feel heavy. She pulled out her safe phone to call May, then stopped herself. She didn't want to just report back. She wanted to celebrate. So instead, she walked to a corner bakery 2 blocks down, bought herself a soft cinnamon bun and a chai latte, sat alone at a window seat, watched people walk by. "This is your life now," she told herself. "You don't owe anyone an explanation." That's when her old phone buzzed from the depths of her bag. Her chest tightened. She pulled it out carefully. turned the screen toward her. One missed call. Restricted number. No voicemail. No text. Just the call. She stared at it. Cold air crept under her skin. Then she powered it off again. This time, without hesitation. Later that evening, back at the center, Tiana curled up in the common room with a mug of tea. Kim sat nearby, reading. Denise was crocheting a baby blanket for a shelter client due in 2 months. May entered with a plate of oatmeal cookies and handed one to Tiana. "You called?" she asked. "I didn't," Tiana said. "I went to a bakery instead." May arched an eyebrow. "I bought a cinnamon roll. For myself." May smiled. "And how did it feel?" Tiana looked down at her tea, then back up. "Like I remembered who I was before him." May nodded. "Good. Hold on to that. The world will keep trying to make you forget." Tiana ate the cookie slowly. Soft, sweet, warm. Before bed, she wrote in her journal, Monday. "I wore a name tag today that didn't scare me. I heard my name said without cruelty. I tasted sweetness I chose, and when the past knocked, I didn't answer. Maybe I'm not brave yet, but I'm awake, and that's enough." Tuesday came with a quiet drizzle and a warmth inside Tiana's chest that hadn't been there in years. It wasn't confidence, at least not yet, but it was something close. A flicker of knowing she had earned yesterday. A whisper that said, "You're allowed to try again." She buttoned her blouse with steady fingers, packed her tote with her journal and a protein bar, and tied her apron tighter this time. The mirror didn't feel like an enemy anymore, just a witness. She arrived at Davenport Roasters 10 minutes early. Josie was already at the bar, organizing syrups and singing along softly to an old Stevie Wonder song. She looked up when Tiana entered. "There's my early bird." Tiana smiled. "Morning. Sleep okay?" "Well enough." "Good," Josie said. "Because today, you're learning foam art." Tiana blinked. "Already? Girl, you survived Monday. You're practically a senior now." They laughed, and it didn't feel strange. It felt easy. As the morning rush began, Tiana slipped into her rhythm. Grind, tamp, brew, steam, pour, smile, breathe. The regulars started to notice her. A tall woman in a yellow raincoat who always ordered 2 Americanos gave her a polite nod. A teenage boy with a stutter said, "You did better than the guy who burned my croissant last week." Even the gruff man with the white beard who never said more than large drip added, "That was quick today." "Thanks." Each tiny interaction built a brick beneath her feet. She was standing taller by noon. After the rush, Josie leaned against the counter and said, "You ever thought about your voice?" Tiana looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean how soft you talk. It's gentle, yeah, but there's more in there. I can hear it." Tiana shrugged. "I guess I got used to being quiet." Josie didn't push, just nodded. "Well, when you're ready, let that thing out. It's stronger than you think." Later, during her break, Tiana sat on the bench out back behind the cafe. She sipped water and watched rain run down the alley walls like silver threads. Then she heard it, the sound of a voicemail notification. On the safe phone, her stomach tightened. She pulled it out. It wasn't Reggie. It was from a blocked number. But the transcript preview read, "This is Officer Nunez with the 23rd Precinct." Her hands went cold. She hit play. A calm male voice spoke. "Good afternoon. This is Officer Marco Nunez. We received a call about an incident involving a Miss Tiana Brooks. I'd like to follow up regarding your welfare and whether you intend to pursue charges. You are under no obligation to respond, but if you do wish to proceed, we have resources available. You can reach me directly at this number." Tiana stared at the phone for a long time. She hadn't called them. Who had? Her mind raced. Had May filed something? Had someone seen the bruises? But then she remembered. The hospital. That nurse. The clipboard. The question they asked gently before stitching her up. "Do you feel safe returning home?" She hadn't answered. They must have filed a report. She breathed slowly. The thought of police terrified her. It felt loud, final, dangerous. But another part of her, the part writing in the journal, showing up to work, and tasting her own courage, said maybe this was another step. That night, back at the shelter, she found May folding laundry in the common room. The windows were fogged, the lights low. May? May looked up. Hey, sugar, you good? Tiana sat beside her on the couch. I got a voicemail. From a cop. May's face didn't change. You want to talk about it? They said I could press charges. They have something on file, I think, from the hospital. May nodded. Sometimes that happens. They report it if they see certain injuries, especially if the patient hesitates to explain them. I didn't call them, Tiana said, suddenly defensive. I know, and you don't have to do anything you're not ready for. Tiana clenched her fists in her lap. But if I don't, it means he's still out there. It means he wins. May folded a towel. It means you're protecting yourself in the way that feels right for you, not for anyone else. Tiana looked down. But what if protecting myself means finally making it real? Putting it on record? Making them say his name? May's eyes softened. Then we say it. Together. When you're ready. Oh, Tiana nodded. Will you help me call back tomorrow? I'll sit right next to you, baby. And for the first time, Tiana didn't feel alone in the idea of justice. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even rage. It was recording the truth. That night, as the shelter quieted and the other women drifted to sleep, Tiana sat with her journal. Tuesday. A police officer knows my name now. That scares me. But maybe it scares him too. Maybe my voice isn't just soft. Maybe it's sharp, too. Like light through glass. Tomorrow, I'll say something out loud I never thought I could. And maybe it'll change everything. The next morning, Tiana woke before dawn. The sky was still heavy with sleep, painted in deep navy, not yet touched by the gold of sunrise. Her alarm hadn't rung yet, but her body knew. Today was different. Not because of work, not because of any bruises still healing, but because of a promise she made to herself. She sat up in bed slowly, trying to feel her breath. In, out, in, out. She reached for her journal and opened to a fresh page. Wednesday. Today, I speak. Not for closure. Not for anger. For truth. For myself. Downstairs, the shelter kitchen was quiet. May was already up, of course wearing her deep green cardigan and slippers, stirring oatmeal in a pot, humming something old and soft. Tiana patted in, her hoodie pulled close around her. Couldn't sleep? May asked without looking. Didn't want to, Tiana replied. May smiled, nodded. Coffee's ready. I made it strong. Tiana poured herself a mug. They sat at the table, steam curling between them. Tiana held the phone in her hand, the safe phone. Officer Nunez's number already dialed, her thumb resting on call but not pressing. You want me to step out? May asked gently. No, Tiana whispered. Stay. She pressed the button. The line rang once, twice. Detective Nunez, came the voice on the other end. Steady, warm, not mechanical. Real. Hi. This is Tiana Brooks. You left a message. A pause. Then, Miss Brooks, I'm glad you called. Are you safe right now? Yes, she said quickly. I'm at a women's shelter. They know some of what happened. Understood, he said. Is now a good time to talk? Tiana swallowed. It is. The conversation was slow, respectful. Detective Nunez explained what was on file from the hospital. A nurse had flagged inconsistencies in her story and noted visible injuries. The report had been quietly logged under a preliminary domestic violence concern. We don't take action unless you consent, he said. But if you decide to file, we can build from this. You're not starting from scratch. Tiana hesitated. Her hand shook slightly on the mug. I'm scared, she admitted, that he'll find me, that nothing will happen, or worse, that something will. I hear that every day, Nunez said. Fear is not weakness. It's proof you survived. What we do with it, that's the power part. Tiana felt her breath catch. That word, power. She hadn't felt that in so long. I want to file, she said softly. I want a record. I want it written somewhere that he hurt me, that I said no. There was a pause, then, okay, Miss Brooks. We'll start there. One truth at a time. He gave her the next steps, a formal intake at the precinct, or an advocate could meet her somewhere safe. May leaned in and suggested the shelter's meeting room. They'd done this before. Friday morning, Tiana said. I'm off work. I'll be ready. When she hung up, her hand was still trembling. She put the phone down carefully, then reached for her journal again. May said nothing, just poured more coffee. Tiana wrote, I said it. Out loud. I said he hurt me. And the world didn't end. It got quieter, more solid. Later that day, at Davenport Roasters, Tiana moved through her shift with more presence. Josie noticed it immediately. You're walking different, she said as they unpacked a delivery. I made a phone call this morning. Josie didn't pry. Just nodded with a knowing look. Some calls break you. Some build you. Sometimes they do both. During the lull in the afternoon, a young woman came in, early 20s, maybe, nervous, shoulders tight. Tiana watched her approach the counter and order a tea in a whisper. When she reached for her change, the girl's sleeve slipped just enough to reveal a faint bruise on her wrist. Tiana didn't stare. She didn't ask. She simply handed the change back and gently said, You're safe here. The woman looked up, startled, then nodded, just barely. After she left, Josie turned. You saw it too? I did, Tiana said. Josie sighed. You handled it right. End quote. Tiana's chest swelled with something she couldn't name. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was seeing. After her shift, Rob pulled her aside. I heard from Luca, he said. He checks in now and then. Wants to make sure you're settling in. Tiana smiled softly. Tell him I am. He'll be glad. He's the kind of guy who doesn't say much unless he means it. You impressed him. I'm just showing up, she replied. That's more than half the job. You're doing good, kid. Great ding. She walked home in the golden light of late afternoon. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like the sidewalk beneath her could collapse. Every step was solid, every breath her own. At the shelter, May had left a small note on her bed. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the whisper that says, I'll try again tomorrow. Tiana tucked it into her journal. Before bed, she wrote one last line. Wednesday. He doesn't own my story. I do now. And I just made the first mark. Friday morning arrived like a weight on Tiana's chest and a breeze at her back. Two feelings at once, fear and readiness. The duality of healing. She stood outside the shelter's common room, the metal doorknob cool in her palm, and took a breath so deep it shook her ribcage. Inside, May waited with 2 mugs of tea and a clipboard. You don't have to do this alone, May said. I know, Tiana whispered. But I need to be the one who does it. May nodded. And you are. I'm Dill. Detective Nunez arrived right on time. He wore a navy button-down, no badge in sight, no gun visible. He looked more like a school counselor than a cop. Exactly as he'd promised, he greeted Tiana with a soft smile and even softer eyes. We'll keep this simple, he said. You tell your story. I'll listen. We'll pause when you want. I'll ask questions only if you say it's okay. Tiana sat with her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. May sat nearby, silent, but present. The room was quiet except for the tick of the shelter's clock and the scratch of the detective's pen. And then Tiana began. I met Reggie in the break room at my old job. He was charming. Funny. He brought me coffee with cream even though I never told him I liked it that way. Her voice wavered. Nunez didn't interrupt. At first, it felt like protection. He'd check in, call me 3 times a day. Told me I didn't need friends. Just him. She paused. Her fingers trembled. He never hit me. Not with fists. Not right away. But he yelled. He controlled. He'd take my phone. Told me how to dress. Made me quit work. Nunez nodded slowly. Did you feel afraid? Tiana's jaw tightened. Every single day. She told him about the first shove. The first slammed door. The night he punched a wall and told her that could have been you. She told him about the guilt, the shame, how she convinced herself it wasn't that bad. I stopped talking to my sister. I even stopped praying. Because if God saw what was happening and let it happen, then maybe I didn't deserve to be saved. May's breath hitched, but she stayed silent. I stayed because leaving felt more dangerous. But then he pushed me. Hard. My head hit the doorframe. I blacked out. Tiana looked up. Her voice no longer shook. I woke up the next morning with blood on my shirt and a question in my mind. What if next time I don't wake up? That's when I left. Nunez nodded again. You're doing incredibly well. Would you like to take a break? Tiana inhaled, then exhaled. No, I want it down. I want it on record. He asked gently about dates, names, witnesses. She remembered fragments, neighbors who looked away. A grocery clerk who once mouthed, "Are you okay?" But she'd smiled and lied. When the interview ended, Nunez stood and offered her a folder. This contains information about support services, legal options, and victim advocacy. If you decide to pursue a restraining order or charges, we'll walk that path with you. No pressure. Just truth. She took the folder with both hands. Her arms ached with the weight of it, not the paper, but the years inside it. Thank you, she said. No, he replied, voice steady. Thank you. Most people don't come forward. You did. After he left, Tiana collapsed into the nearest chair. May rubbed her back, slow and quiet. I feel tired, Tiana murmured. You just ran a marathon, baby, May said. You carried something too big for too long. Now it's starting to put itself down. That afternoon, Tiana walked into Davenport Roasters 10 minutes early, just like always. Josie looked up from her spot near the register. You're glowing, she said, narrowing her eyes. Am I? Oh yeah. Like someone who just told the truth and walked away standing. Tiana chuckled, then got to work. The rhythm of the shift gave her something to ground herself in. Brew, steam, pour, smile, repeat. Midway through her shift, Luca entered. She hadn't seen him since her first day. His dark suit was sharp as ever, but his energy was warmer this time. Miss Brooks, he said with a slight nod. Mr. Davenport, she replied, trying not to trip over her own breath. I heard you've been making quite the impression. She raised an eyebrow. In a good way? He smirked. In a way that makes Rob very pleased and Josie suspiciously proud. That's rare. She laughed, nervous but flattered. Well, I like it here. He nodded once more. I'd like to sit. If you have a break soon, Josie waved from across the room. I'll cover. Go. Tiana led Luca to the side patio, quiet, with ivy climbing the brick wall and sunlight peeking through. They sat. I wanted to ask, he said, what made you stay here, at this job? She thought for a moment. Because this place didn't just give me a paycheck, she said softly. It gave me a reason to wake up, a reason to show up. And people who saw me before I was ready to be seen. Luca studied her face. That's more valuable than any salary. I think so too. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. We offer something called a re-entry stipend. It's for employees transitioning from hardship. It's not charity. It's recognition of how far you've come. Inside was a check, enough for 3 months' rent on a studio apartment. Tiana stared at it, blinking. I don't know what to say. You've already said it, Luca replied. Every day you show up. She nodded, tears threatening, but she didn't let them fall. Not here. Not yet. That night, back at the shelter, she stared at the check. Then at her journal. Friday. I told my truth today. With a witness, with a pen, with my whole chest. I'm not invisible anymore. And the world didn't swallow me. It opened up. Saturday morning came with golden light spilling across the shelter floor like a quiet promise. Tiana packed slowly, carefully folding each shirt, each pair of jeans into the single suitcase she'd carried with her when she ran. The same one Reggie used to check without asking. The same one he once kicked across the room when she came home late from work. Now, she zipped it closed with her own hands. No permission needed. May stood in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest, watching like a proud mother hen trying not to cry. You sure you're ready? She asked softly. I'm not sure, Tiana said with a smile, but I'm going anyway. May stepped forward and pressed a little cloth pouch into her hand. What's this? Salt, sugar, a keychain with Saint Monica on it. She's the patron saint of perseverance, and moms who never give up on their daughters. Figured she could work overtime for you. Tiana laughed gently, tears stinging. Thank you. Outside, a city van waited to help with her transition part of the stipend Luca had given her. A social worker stood nearby with keys and a lease in hand. Tiana waved goodbye to the women of the shelter. Kim blew a kiss. Denise gave her a thumbs up and whispered, "First hot shower in peace? Take your time, girl." Tiana's new apartment was on the second floor of an old building with creaky stairs and sunlit windows. The paint was chipped, but the air was clean. It smelled like possibility. The front door had a new lock. No dents, no scratches, no busted frame from someone kicking it in. Tiana turned the key. It slid smoothly. Inside, a small living room with a second-hand couch. A kitchenette with a humming fridge. A bedroom just big enough for a twin bed and a small desk, but it was hers. She dropped her bag on the couch, walked through every room slowly, and finally sat on the bare floor. Then she cried not out of fear, but out of relief. The kind that floods your system like rain after a long drought. That night, she didn't write in her journal. She wrote on the back of her hand, in ballpoint ink, "I'm home." Sunday morning, Tiana woke with sunlight dancing on her pillow. No nightmares, no shouting from the hallway, no footsteps that made her flinch, just quiet. She got up, brewed coffee in the tiny machine May had gifted her, and sat by the window to watch the city breathe. People walked dogs. Kids biked by. A neighbor played Motown from a speaker on their balcony. Tiana smiled. After church, her first in over 2 years, she returned home and found a package waiting at her door. Brown paper. No return label. She opened it slowly. Inside was a single book, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Taped to the front was a note, written in familiar handwriting. "This book reminded me of you, a woman finding her voice in a world that tried to silence her. Keep speaking. L." She pressed the book to her chest, eyes closed. That evening, Tiana returned to the cafe not to work, but just to be there. Josie was closing up, flipping chairs onto tables. "Well, look who wandered back in." Josie grinned. "Missing the smell of espresso already?" "I missed the music," Tiana said. "And the people. Isnotable. You brought your journal?" Tiana held up the leather-bound book. "Want a booth or the patio?" Patio. She sat under the string lights, scribbling notes for a story she hadn't yet decided to write. The ideas came slowly, but they came. Maybe one day she'd write it all down. Maybe one day her name would be on a cover, and some girl in another shelter would find it and whisper, "Me too." She stayed until closing. When Josie walked her out, she said, "You're different, you know." To Waitress. "I hope so," Tiana said. "No," Josie replied. "Not like that. I mean, you're standing taller. You've got roots now. You're not running anymore." That night, back in her apartment, Tiana opened her journal again. Sunday. There's peace in small places. A folded blanket, a chipped mug, a neighbor who says hi. And there's power in owning your own keys, in choosing who gets to knock. "This is mine. I earned this. I won't give it back." Monday started with a soft knock at the apartment door. Tiana, still in her robe, paused with her coffee halfway to her lips. She wasn't expecting anyone, not May, not the super, not even a delivery. She peered through the peephole. No one. But when she opened the door, a small bouquet sat on the floor, wildflowers and eucalyptus wrapped in brown paper, tied with a piece of twine. There was a note, handwritten on a folded napkin. "I'm sorry. Please call me." No name, no number. But she knew who it was. Her stomach turned. She took the bouquet inside and set it on the counter like it might bite her. She stared at it for a full 5 minutes. The flowers were fresh, vibrant. They smelled like spring and something else, manipulation disguised as gentleness. Reggie had always known how to make cruelty look like kindness. She sat at the table and stared at the note again. Her hands trembled. Not from fear, at least not the kind that used to freeze her. This was different. She reached for her safe phone and called May. "May," she said. "He left flowers at my door." There was a beat of silence. Did you see him? No. Just the flowers and the note. No name. But it's him. Done. May sighed on the other end. That means he found your building. I didn't tell anyone where I moved. He may have followed you, or called shelters, or waited near the cafe. Tiana's chest tightened. What do I do? May's voice dropped into a low, calm firmness. You breathe. Then you call Officer Nunez. An hour later, Detective Nunez met her outside her building. He wasn't in uniform, just slacks and a windbreaker. He carried a small notepad and a calm that helped steady her shaking hands. You didn't touch the note? He asked. No, she said. I just brought it in and called May. Good. We'll bag it. If he left prints, we'll know. But I never filed a restraining order, she said quietly. Not yet. This changes that, Nunez replied. He showed up uninvited. That's trespassing. And the fact that he left a message with emotional weight? That's psychological pressure. You're not overreacting. She nodded, trying not to cry. May I ask, Nunez continued, how you want to handle this? I want him to know I'm not afraid, she said. And I want the law to stand between us. He nodded. Then that's what we'll do. They walked through her building. He inspected entrances, noted blind spots, asked about cameras. He even offered to help coordinate with the landlord to increase security. Before he left, he handed her a printed packet. Filing the order is step 1. Once it's processed, we can deliver notice to him. You won't have to see him. You won't have to say a word. She held the packet like a life preserver. That evening, Tiana went to work at Davenport Roasters, more on edge than usual. Josie noticed before she even finished tying her apron. You okay? He found me, she said softly. Josie didn't flinch. Did he do anything? Just flowers, a note, but it was enough. Josie set down the box she was carrying. You want to stay? Or go? I want to stay, Tiana said quickly. If I go, he wins. Josie nodded. Then we keep the front lights on bright. You don't walk out alone, and anyone who gives you bad vibes, we cut him off. Tiana smiled weakly. You're like a coffee shop bouncer. I'm your unofficial bodyguard with a milk frother. Skine. They both laughed, and the sound of it lightened the air. Halfway through her shift, Luca entered again. This time, he wasn't wearing his usual tailored suit, just jeans and a wool coat. He ordered a decaf and lingered by the counter. When the cafe quieted, he spoke gently. I heard about the flowers. Of course he did. Luca had ears everywhere. I'm handling it, Tiana said. With the police. Good, he said. Then, do you feel safe working here? She paused. I feel stronger here. It's in tech. He nodded. Then let me know if that changes. Your safety is not negotiable. I appreciate that. Luca turned to leave but stopped at the door. You know, he said, people like him thrive on silence. But you've got something better now. What's that? Witnesses. Then he left. That night, back in her apartment, Tiana burned the flowers in a tin trash can on the fire escape. Not because she was afraid, but because she refused to let his intentions live under her roof. As the petals curled into ash, she stood tall, barefoot in the cool air, a blanket around her shoulders like a queen's cape. Then she went inside and wrote, Monday. I didn't ask for flowers. I don't owe anyone softness for their cruelty. I am not afraid of notes left on napkins. I have a pen of my own, and I'm using it. Let the record show. I lived. I stayed gone. And I chose me. Wednesday came like a hammer and a hymn. The weight of what Tiana had decided to file the restraining order felt both terrifying and holy. It wasn't revenge. It was declaration. It was choosing not to live like prey. She arrived at the precinct just after 9 a.m. Her paperwork tucked neatly in a manila folder. Her hair pulled back. Her hands steady, even if her heart wasn't. She wore the cardigan May had given her, the one with the loose sleeve and soft green wool. It felt like armor. Detective Nunez met her in the lobby, guiding her gently through the back halls. Everything smelled like old coffee and printer ink. The air held a quiet hum, like the city's pulse being tracked one report at a time. They sat at a small desk tucked in a side office. A notary was present. A plainclothes officer typed on a laptop nearby. "Take your time," Nunez said, "and remember you're not on trial. You're giving truth a paper trail." Ike. Tiana unfolded her papers and began reading out loud, her voice quiet but unwavering. "My name is Tiana Brooks. I am requesting a restraining order against Reginald James Morris." Each sentence she read felt like a door closing. Not on her past, not fully, but on his access to her, on his voice being louder than hers, on the lie that he still owned part of her life. She described the incidents, the escalation, the time he locked her in the bathroom for hours without food, the slammed door, the accidental shove, the look he gave her the day she finally left, the kind that promised he wasn't finished. The notary nodded, stamped the forms, signed where needed. When it was done, Detective Nunez placed a hand gently on the folder. "It'll be filed within the hour," he said. "Once processed, he will be served. That could take a day or two depending on his location, and he'll know it's from me," Tiana said. "Yes, but he'll also know the law is watching now, with additization 41s and of that." She nodded, chest tight but proud. "Thank you." He offered a small, rare smile. "You've done the hardest part. The rest, we handle together." Back at the cafe, the day moved slowly but warmly. The regulars filtered in with their usual orders. Josie handed Tiana the good milk steamer, the one that didn't sputter, and winked. "You got this, warrior." Tiana grinned. "I filed today." Josie stopped mid-pour. "You did?" "Yeah. He'll be served soon." Josie nodded solemnly. "Damn right he will." Inexined. By afternoon, the mood in the shop lifted. Rob brought in muffins from a local bakery and said, "For my best trainee." He handed her one wrapped in parchment, blueberry, and lavender. She nearly cried. Then, around 3 p.m., a text came. Unknown number. "You think this piece of paper will stop me?" Tiana stared at the screen. Her breath caught, but she didn't freeze. Instead, she took a screenshot, flagged the number, and walked straight into the back office. Josie turned as she entered. "I need to call Detective Nunez. He just texted me." Josie grabbed the landline and held it out. "Use this. He'll pick up faster from the shop line." Tiana did. Nunez answered on the first ring. "He texted me," she said. "I have proof." "Read it to me," he said. She did. Nunez's voice dropped to that quiet firmness she recognized from the shelter. "Thank you for reporting this. That text violates the temporary protective order we pre-filed. It was already in place under emergency status until the official one is processed. This gives us grounds to act sooner. Will he be arrested? If we locate him before the full order is served, he may receive a warning and documentation. But if he continues, if he contacts you again, we escalate." "You've done exactly the right thing, Tiana." She hung up. Her hands were steady. Josie stood at the door, arms crossed. "You okay?" "Better than I thought I'd be." "I do 80 zest. You want to go home?" "No," Tiana said. "I want to work. I want to finish my shift. This is my space now." Josie smiled wide. "Damn right." That night, Lucas stopped by, unannounced. Not as a boss, but as someone who understood. "I heard what happened," he said. "Nunez briefed me. You did everything right." Tiana nodded. "I'm not going to run. I wouldn't let you," he said quietly. "You're part of this family now. You show up. You care. You protect the energy of this place. So we protect you." He pulled out a small key from his pocket. "I had a panic button installed behind the counter. Press it, and police will be called. No questions, just help." Tiana took the key with trembling fingers. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank yourself for surviving long enough to walk into your own power." Back home, she opened her journal with a hand that no longer shook. Wednesday. He texted me. I answered with silence and protection. I put my name on a legal document today. I claimed myself in ink. I'm not waiting to be rescued anymore. I'm protecting my own damn story. And if he shows up again, he won't be met with fear. He'll be met with me. Friday came with sunlight like silk. The sky above New York was unusually clear, as if the city itself had taken a deep breath and finally exhaled. Tiana stood at her window, holding her coffee like a ritual. She watched the world outside without flinching. No shadows on the stairwell. No footsteps outside her door. Only pigeons and neighbors. And the everyday sound of someone living. She checked her phone. No messages. No threats. Just a weather alert for light rain after midnight. And a meme from Josie about bad customers and spilled cappuccinos. It had been 2 days since Reggie's last message. 2 days of silence. But this silence didn't feel like fear. It felt like space. At 10 a.m., Tiana arrived at Davenport Roasters, not as the girl who'd once trembled by the espresso machine, but as a woman who'd faced her monster and didn't look away. Josie was already inside, restocking syrups. "You hear back from Nunez?" she asked. Tiana nodded. "Yeah. They served him yesterday afternoon. No resistance. He took it. Walked away." "Good," Josie said. "Let him walk far." Tiana tucked her coat behind the counter, tied on her apron, and washed her hands. As the water ran warm over her fingers, she caught her reflection in the chrome faucet, older, maybe, but stronger. Rooted. A few minutes later, Luca arrived. He didn't say much. Just passed her a small envelope, unmarked. Inside was a single index card, with handwriting she recognized instantly. "You didn't break, you bloomed, L." Tiana held it like something sacred. By noon, the cafe was full. Regulars. Strangers. A few curious newcomers. Tiana moved through them like music serving, smiling, laughing. She made foam hearts and clean pores. She asked names and remembered faces. Mid-shift, Josie nudged her. "You have someone at table 5. Tiana turned and her heart paused. It was her sister, Janelle, 5 years older, sharp cheekbones and a softer voice than Tiana remembered. They hadn't spoken in almost 3 years. Tiana wiped her hands and walked slowly over. Her throat tight, her stomach light. "Hey," she said. Janelle stood. Her eyes were wet. "Hi, T." Tiana stared at her. "How did you?" May reached out. Janelle said. "She thought I should know. I didn't know what you were going through. I would have helped. I swear." "I know," Tiana said softly. "But I wasn't ready to be found then." They sat across from each other, steam curling from a pair of mugs. "I'm proud of you," Janelle whispered. "You left." "I had to," Tiana replied. "I was disappearing. I see you now." "I see." Tiana looked at her sister's face, older, wiser, weathered by guilt. And she didn't feel bitterness. She felt belonging. After the cafe closed, Josie pulled her into a hug. "You were made for more than just surviving," she whispered. "You were made for this. For starting over. For building something." Saturday morning, Tiana visited the shelter. Not because she needed a bed, but because someone else did. A new girl had arrived overnight. Young, scared, shoulders curled inward like she wanted to disappear. Tiana brought her a warm cup of tea and sat down beside her. "I was where you are," she said. The girl looked up, startled. "You?" Tiana nodded. "It gets better. Not easier. But better. You just need your first small win. And I'll be here to see it." The girl blinked, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Tiana didn't reach for it. She just stayed. That night, in her apartment, she lit a candle. Not for prayer. For remembrance. For light. She sat on the floor, back against the couch, and opened her journal for the last entry. Friday. It's over, and it's only just beginning. He got served. But more than that, I stood up. I stayed. I built a life that isn't made of fear. I forgave myself. For staying too long. For being too silent. For surviving in the only ways I knew how. And I forgave my voice for hiding. Because when it came back, it shook the ground. I have a key. I have a name. I have people. I have peace. Not because he let me have it, but because I chose it. Every single day. This is my story, and I'm not done telling it. She closed the journal. This time, there were no tears. Just a quiet victory, hers and hers alone. This story is a quiet yet powerful reminder that healing isn't loud, it's steady. It teaches us that courage often begins in silence, in the decision to leave, to speak up, or simply to stay alive one more day. Tiana's journey shows that even in a world that overlooks the voices of the vulnerable, especially Black women, choosing to protect your peace is an act of rebellion and resilience. The story reminds us, you don't need permission to take back your life. You just need the first step and the will to keep walking.